All right, welcome back to our first episode this year of Tea Time with Teachers for the 2018 school year. This is Miss Miller. I'm your host, Will Brackett. She's a Spanish teacher here at the high school. Just going to ask her a few questions. Miss Miller, what was the reason that you decided you want to teach Spanish here at Sweetwater High School?
Well, I am of Hispanic descent, so I'm really proud of my culture and the fact that I am bilingual, so I've always loved the idea of teaching Spanish.
So you were a senior, you went to this high school, correct?
Yes.
So what's a funny story from your high school years?
Okay, so in my graduating class, I graduated with a friend of mine who, our junior year of high school, decided to jump out of the window. I think she broke her ankle. It was two students. Our teacher had left the classroom and she left us alone, and it was her honors class, her honors English class. And we just got bored. And so one of the students decides that he's going to jump out of the window, and he coaxes another student into jumping out with him. And I think they had a chair down there that they were supposed to land on or something like that. But she didn't land it, and she broke her ankle, and it was a big mess. Needless to say, it's funny now, but at the moment, everybody was in deep water.
So I'm sure that does remind you guys of the Tyler Raymond story. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Those kind of have some parallels there with Tyler Raymond jumping out of Miss Hill's window. But saying that you are an alumni of the high school, do you think that had an influence on you coming back and teaching here specifically?
Well, it's funny because I never thought I would come back to this area as a high schooler. I always had this mentality that I wanted to go out into the world or live in a bigger city. But as I got older, I felt the need of a sense of community and that small town feeling of coming back home and kind of knowing everyone and just being able to give back to your community is really nice, and that's why I came back, because I really enjoyed that.
So where'd you say you went to college again?
I went to Tennessee Westland.
Tennessee Westland.
Yes.
So do you think that prepared you fine for coming back here and teaching? Do you think you got a good education there?
No, Tennessee Westland's education was amazing. The only thing is that I actually have my degree in elementary education. So they did a wonderful job preparing me for elementary education. So I got out of my comfort zone and coming into the high school, but yes, Tennessee Westland did a great job.
So obviously being bilingual definitely gives you a huge advantage of teaching Spanish. Do you have any advice to anybody else in the school who's like bilingual and wants to do kind of the same thing?
Taking advantage of knowing two languages. Please do know that there are so many opportunities out there for bilingual speakers. You are constantly being sought after because of the fact that you can speak two languages. I noticed that a lot of people don't think it's useful, and it might not be here in a small town. You might not ever use your Spanish, but if you do venture out, being bilingual is a wonderful tool to have.
Sure. So you kind of got thrown into the fire last year because you guys probably know that Ms. Prado, she quit halfway through the year because she moved to Florida and she was going to further education. But you kind of ended up being here the second semester. How do you think that affected your teaching last year versus this year?
Well, I'm more prepared this year, for sure. Last year, I have to say, it was the hardest thing to go through because you are thrown into the mix of things. And not only that, but like I said, I come from elementary background, so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into with a bunch of high schoolers. So trying to just figure that out on its own was really difficult. And then the fact that you guys were used to a totally different teaching method, which was Prado and her way of teaching Spanish. You kind of had to adjust to me, which I felt like took a lot of time, and on top of that, I was trying to figure out where you were, because I didn't know how much Spanish you knew. So that was really difficult. It was just a really hard semester in general, but I was a trooper and kept going, and I just want to apologize for everyone who had me last semester.
So obviously you seem more prepared this year. What are some different things you're doing now?
Okay, so over the summer I learned a little bit more of a new Spanish teaching method that is all through comprehension and reading and writing. So something that's new that I didn't do last semester is that at least half or a little bit more than half of my class time with you guys, I'm speaking Spanish and I expect you to reply in Spanish. And last year it was like I was talking about Spanish, but not necessarily speaking in Spanish.
So it's a lot more integrated Spanish rather than just kind of drilling.
Yeah.
All right. So holistically looking back on pretty much everything, do you ever did you ever think that you would end up in high school education or teaching Spanish, or were you trying to go in a completely different direction with that?
Honestly, looking back, I work with Young Life, the organization, so I would always come here to do some volunteer hours, and I would always joke with Weaver that I would come back and be part of the school, but it was like a running joke. I never really seriously sat down and thought about it because I thought there's no way, my license and all this stuff, and I spent 4 years, studying to be an elementary teacher, so I never really thought about it. But now that I am doing it, I absolutely love it.
Well, it's always good to interview somebody who really likes what they're doing. I really appreciate you doing the tea time with us here today. Again, this is Miss Miller. She's the Spanish teacher here at Sweetwater High School. If you guys do have the privilege of being with her, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of the stuff that you guys have heard about today. So this has been the first episode of Tea Time with Teachers for the 2018 school year, and thank you again.